Let me tell ya, I did not have high expectations for Sonic Origins at all when it was first announced. I was expecting a pretty bare-bones re-release of these games that was pretty close to worthless. However, to my surprise, Sonic Origins has very much exceeded my expectations. But it's still not very good. So first thing I want to get out of the way is I want to clarify something for people that may not be aware. These new versions of these games are not emulation, they are not ports of the original Genesis games, and they are not remasters. These are remakes of the original Sonic games built from the ground up on a new engine. However, for the most part, these are not actually new remakes of these games. Sonic 1, 2, and CD all come from the mobile versions of the games created by Christian Whitehead and Stealth and their whole crew several years ago. Some of these versions of these games are over a decade old, in fact. But that is not at all a problem. That is a very, very good thing, because those mobile versions of the games are just absolutely 100% completely superior to the original Genesis games in pretty much every single way. So I'm very thankful they ended up going with those versions. I was actually afraid when this was first announced that they might have been doing ports of the original Genesis games, but no, thankfully they did not do something unimaginably stupid like that. However, there are still a couple of problems with these versions of the games that exist here in Sonic Origins. The first one that stuck out to me upon immediately launching a game was something that was an issue in the Sonic CD version released on consoles and PC. At least this is a problem with the PC version. I'm not 100% sure if it's an issue on console, but the game is just slightly blurry. Like, if you just kind of look at it and don't really pay that much attention, then it looks okay, but if you really look at those pixels at the very edges, they really kind of get a bit fuzzy. They're not like super duper sharp, high-resolution pixels like you would think you would be getting with a modern re-release of an old game like this. And unfortunately, that issue that existed in the original remake of Sonic CD is now present in all of these games. They're all slightly blurry. They're not really sharp like they should be. It's just a very ugly look. And there's nothing you can do in-game to deal with this issue. There's an anti-aliasing option you can turn on for some fucking reason to make the game even fucking blurrier and make it hideous if you want that for some reason. So yeah, this is already not a great first impression. I mean, it's not terrible. If you play the game for a while, you get used to the look, but still, this is kind of an issue that is very prevalent across all of Sonic Origins that I have with it, is that I feel like if you're making a modern re-release of classic games like this, especially games that have already been re-released multiple times, if you're gonna make a new version, a new re-release of all these games, it should be the best versions of these games that you can possibly get. And Sonic Origins isn't really that at all. Now, getting into the actual games themselves, Sonic 1, 2, and CD are, for the most part, exactly what they were in the original mobile versions, which is, for the most part, very, very good. They're just straight-up upgrades from the original versions of the games. But one thing I noticed is that this game only has 2 jump buttons. Now, for the layperson, this is not a problem at all. The Sonic games are basically just one-button games. But for more advanced players and speedrunners, there was actually a trick you could do to spin dash faster using the multiple jump buttons, where you would basically press all 3 buttons in quick succession in order to rev a spin dash faster. And you can no longer do that as quickly here in Sonic Origins because you only have 2 jump buttons as opposed to 3 like the original games. However, now they've added the drop dash from Sonic Mania into all of these classic games, which is great, but there are some issues here depending on which game we're playing. Another thing they've chosen to maintain from the original versions of the games is roll locking, which is a thing where when you jump in Sonic, you can influence yourself in the air. You can move left and right and fight against your momentum or lean into it, in order to maneuver yourself while jumping. It's a platformer. You platform. You control yourself while you're in the air. However, the original Sonic games had a feature where if you were rolling on the ground and then you jumped, you actually had no ability to control yourself in the air at all. You were just completely the victim of the momentum. You could not influence your jump horizontally in any way. You could control your jump height, but you could not steer while in the air, specifically when jumping from a roll. And this feature was also present in the mobile remakes of these games, except for Sonic CD. That actually is the only of the original games that did not have this feature when it first came out. And so on the face of it, it seems like, well, what's the big deal? These were in the original games, so they're still here in these versions. Well, the issue is that the drop dash really does not gel with roll locking like this, because Mania did not have roll locking. In that game, you could control yourself in the air from jumping out of a roll just like you could in Sonic CD. And so the drop dash does not really function how it did in Mania, and it doesn't really feel as good at all in Sonic 1 and 2 in this collection. The biggest difference you'll notice is that you cannot redirect yourself in the air because you can't even get Sonic to turn the other way when jumping out of a roll, which was something you could do in Mania that made the drop dash really fun to use. This isn't an issue in Sonic CD because it already had those controls, but interestingly, Sonic 3 and Knuckles does remove the roll lock, because Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a brand new remake of that game created for Sonic Origins, because that game did not get a mobile remake like the other ones did. And so I'm actually going to move on to talking about Sonic 3 and Knuckles at this point, because I'm not going to review these actual games themselves. I've already done that on my channel with better versions of these games, quite frankly. So you can go check that out. I'm just going to talk about what we get here in Sonic Origins. And for Sonic 1, 2, and CD, you basically get a direct port of the mobile remakes with Drop Dash added into the games, and that's pretty much it. However, one of the things I was really excited about with this collection was finally getting a retro engine remake of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. However, I must say, this version of the game is quite a letdown overall. On the face of it, it seems like a perfectly good remake of the original game like all the other ones are, and there are a number of nice little extra features and new additions and improvements made to this version of the game that I do like. But there's also a number of things that I found to be very strange with this game. First of all, the speed of this game is jacked. Like, you go way, way faster in this game than you do in the original. Which might not seem like too much of a bad thing, but there are many sequences in this game that are very specifically designed for the physics and speed of the original game, and now you throw in this massively increased movement speed, and a lot of things do not work the way that they're supposed to. This can range from small things like coming out of little set pieces with way more speed than you're supposed to be able to larger issues where entire sequences of this game do not function the same way that they did in the original, affecting how the level actually plays. Now, to be clear, nothing is necessarily wrong with how these things work in this version of the game, they're just slightly different than they were in the original. But the other remakes also had slight minor differences in terms of how things operated from the original games. However, it is much, much more different in the case of Sonic 3 and Knuckles than the others. There were just constantly things I was running into where it was just like, oh, that doesn't work like how it's supposed to. One of the most prominent examples that stuck out to me was these flying tops in Marble Garden. The physics on these are totally different than they are in the original game, and they do not work like how they used to at all. I also ran into stuff like this, where in the original game, you can jump up to this platform from this barrel no problem, but here in Sonic Origins, I was having a tough time getting this to work. I've also found certain things where it seems like you can get off of the layer that you're supposed to be on in the game, where I jump into a slope in a way that I guess the game didn't anticipate me to, and I don't collide with the platform there like I'm supposed to, I just go through it. That is not at all how that is supposed to work. In fact, in one instance, this caused me to go right through the floor and die. I also ran into this palette bug where I died while the boss was taking a hit, and when I respawned, its color palette was stuck in the, flashing damage version instead of reverting to the normal color palette. I also noticed some really odd sound issues in this game, just like with the sound mixing. Just things seemed very, off with how they sounded. Some things were too loud, some things were too quiet, and in general, the audio quality for the whole game just sounded pretty bad. Of course, the game is missing its original music, and I'm not gonna get into that whole thing, which, it's unfortunate, but there's nothing they can do about it. They went with the best compromise they could, which was to use the prototype songs and finish them for this version of the game. And, these songs are pretty good, so it's making the best of a bad situation. I'm not gonna hold not having the original music against this version of the game in particular, but it is still a downgrade at the end of the day. I think for the most part, these are issues that are not gonna bother most people that play this game. If you're someone that's never played these games before, none of this is an issue because there's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with a lot of these things. They're just not how they were in the originals. And if you're someone who hasn't played these games for a very long time, then you're probably fine. But for people like me, for really hardcore Sonic fans that have played these games a ton and know them really well, I am not very happy with how this version of the game turned out. Which is unfortunate because there are cool little extra things added to this game. They've improved the sprite animation in a lot of instances, they've added new sprites that weren't there before. They've totally remade the 2-player race mode levels now at full scale, which is pretty cool, while maintaining the original kind of weird physics that those had. They've added the ability to fly with Sonic and Tails with one player like you can do in Sonic Mania, and lots of other cool little features that they've thrown in here. You can really tell the difference in the effort that went into Sonic 3 and Knuckles as opposed to all of the other games. That's why Sonic 3 and Knuckles does not have the roll locks, so that way the drop dash actually works well. But Sega couldn't be bothered with the rest of the games. They just tossed the drop dash in and didn't really think to fix all the other mechanics that make the drop dash work well. Rather than taking those existing mobile remakes and making the best possible version of those games, it seems like Sega just opted for, whatever, just port them, that's good enough. But since they got people who actually cared to remake Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it has a lot more work put into it and a lot more of extra improvements. I can only assume that all of the weird little issues that exist in this version of the game is a product of a really, really tight deadline, because Simon and all those dudes at Headcanon, they're better than this. They can absolutely make a much better remake of Sonic 3 and Knuckles than this. So I have to assume that they just were not given the opportunity to finish this version of the game. And that's just really unfortunate because this Retro Engine game sticks out like a sore thumb compared to all of the other ones. So as far as these versions of these games go, they're overall good, but I am personally not at all happy with them. I think they could have done a lot to improve the existing remakes they had, and the remake that they got together here for Sonic 3 and Knuckles is just not up to snuff in my opinion. Now, as far as all of the extra features and stuff in this collection, it's very hit and miss, I would say. Some things that are here are cool, some things that are here are kinda stupid, and there is a big lack of things that I think should be here. So firstly, you have the Anniversary mode and the Classic mode available in all of the games, and to be honest, I really don't even understand why Classic mode is here. All it does is remove widescreen from the game, re-implement limited lives, and take away the drop dash, which are all things that, in my opinion, just make the games worse, but even for someone that wants to go purist, these aren't really adequate because they're still not exactly what the original games were like. Sonic 1 and 2 are missing their speed caps, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles still has all of its weird problems, and it still doesn't have the roll lock enabled. So you're not even really getting an actually authentic experience when you play Classic mode. Again, I think this would be fine for people that haven't really played these games that much or played them in a long time, but if Classic mode is supposed to be touted as giving you the authentic original experience of these games, it absolutely fails at that. I mean, fuck, Sega already has a shitty Genesis emulator. They probably would have been better off just throwing those versions of the games in instead of this. In fact, I would have preferred that, because then people still could have gotten the ROMs of these games in an official capacity. But, nope, you don't get that. Now, there's one new feature added to Anniversary mode that a lot of people were really freaking out and trying to get my attention about it, which would be the coins added into the game. People were contacting me all over the place like, oh, dude, coins are finally officially in the games, it's just like you said. But I don't really understand what these people are talking about. Coins were always in the original Sonic games. The new thing that they've added into Anniversary Edition are rings, and these replace lives when you're playing in Anniversary mode. And these can be used in the museum mode to unlock artwork and music and stuff like that, which is cool, but they can also be used to restart special stages when you fail them, which I think actually is a great new feature. I really like that. I think that's a great improvement to these games. So really, if you ask me, these really shouldn't be called Anniversary Mode and Classic Mode. They should be called Better Mode and Worse Mode, because that's all they really are. And in my opinion, the extra modes available in the game are pretty dumb. So firstly, they added a boss rush mode, which, whatever, I guess. I mean, in my opinion, the bosses are certainly not the strongest part of any Sonic game, so I'm not going to bother with this, and I don't know who would. And then they've also added mirror mode. Whoa, is this supposed to be, like, cool? Am I supposed to think this is a really fun new way to play the game? 'Cause it's really not. This is a pretty fucking lazy thing to implement that doesn't really add anything new or of substantial value, in my opinion. Meanwhile, the game is lacking something that it should have, which is a time attack mode. There are leaderboards where they track your best times, but those are just your best times playing the game normally. There's not a dedicated time attack mode that has like a one-button instant restart like Mania had or anything like that. But at the very least, they have added the ability to just pause the game and restart, which is pretty quick, so that's alright. It also means the boss fights are included in your times, which I'm not personally a huge fan of as someone that does really like time-attacking Sonic games. So overall, I am quite let down by this game's time attack offerings. I had a high suspicion when this collection was announced that it would not satisfy me in that kind of way, and unfortunately, I was right. It is nice that the game does at least have leaderboards to track your best times, but without a good time attack mode to make the experience as smooth and as enjoyable as possible, I'm not really gonna bother. Though I was pretty pleased with the times I ended up getting while playing the game. Suck it, Geek Critique, I'm better than you. I'm just kidding, he's pretty cool. One thing I want to make a quick note of is that Blue Spheres is available, which is cool, I guess. And they've also added a bunch of new stages to Blue Sphere as well, available in this separate mode, which has its own, like, really cool title screen. Look at this, I love this. The biggest new gameplay feature added to Sonic Origins would be Mission Mode, and this is basically a series of short levels where they take existing levels from the games and remix the level design quite substantially and throw in a challenge for the player to complete. This really reminds me a lot of all of the side missions that you could do in Sonic Generations. The general design of them and the way they're executed and the feel of them, extremely similar to how that was done, right down to the ranking system being built around how quickly you can complete these challenges. And when I saw that they've added stuff like this into the game, I was like, who cares? Like, why are you wasting time on this stupid shit? No one's gonna play this? But actually, I found these challenges to be pretty fun. It was actually something new for me to do in these classic games, using the physics and mechanics in new ways that I've never done before. I actually had a pretty good time doing the missions here. However, they're still not like anything like super duper amazing. They're fun little extra content. But personally, if you ask me, I would have rather these not been made and instead you spend those development resources, I don't know, improving the existing games or fixing up the version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. How about instead of making missions, you add the Insta-Shield and the Super Peel-Out to all of the games? How about you make Knuckles playable in Sonic CD? How about you make it so you can skip the time travel sequences in Sonic CD? How about you make a good time attack mode like Mania had where you can reload instantly and the bosses are removed from the levels? And while you're at it, how about a ranking system for the regular levels depending on how quickly you can complete them? And many other things. There is so much extra stuff they could have done to improve the original games. But instead they decided to make these missions, which, you know, at least they're fun. There is also the story mode, which strings all the games together in one sequence, which, you know, that's cool, but it's not really that different from just playing them individually. So really, the only thing left to talk about now would be the museum mode, which is pretty much exactly what you would expect. There's artwork and music, and you can watch the movies in the game and all that stuff, and you can use the rings to unlock a bunch of extra stuff, extra pieces of artwork and music from other different sources. Most of the artwork I've already seen before, but actually there was some new stuff in here that has never been released before, and that was pretty neat to see. Now, as far as the movies available in this game, this is where I talk about one of the few things in Sonic Origins that I think is unequivocally excellent, which is all of the new animations. We get a beautiful opening and ending cutscene for every single game, as well as an opening and ending cutscene for Sonic Origins overall, and you can also unlock the Sonic Mania Adventures animations as well. So that is all great, and those animations are absolutely fantastic. And they've also, of course, included the original Sonic CD animations made by Studio Junio, now up-resed and looking really, really good. And they got the vocal version of You Can Do Anything for the Japanese soundtrack's intro, which is great because that was not in the original mobile version of Sonic CD. So yeah, overall, the animations in Sonic Origins are excellent, absolutely awesome. These are really the only thing I was super looking forward to with this collection. Now, can we please stop fucking around and let these people make a fully animated classic Sonic cartoon? Please and thank you. I guess the last thing to touch on with Sonic Origins is the overall presentation of the package itself, which I can't really complain about. You know, the menus are all really slick and nice. I really like how the title screen and main menu theme is a remix of the Sonic World theme from Sonic Jam, which was the very first collection of the original 2D Sonic game, so that's a nice little callback, a nice reference there. I really like all the 3D models they have of all the different islands and stuff, that's very cool. And the general aesthetic of all the menus and stuff matches the original Japanese box art of all the Sonic games, which, you know, it's iconic. How could you not go with that? There are some features of these menus that are locked behind paid DLC, which is incredibly fucking stupid, and I'm not paying for that shit. But fortunately, it was nothing of real value anyway, so you're not really missing out on much. And that's definitely the kind of thing you want to be saying when talking about an anniversary celebration collecting all of the original Sonic games, right? So that is Sonic Origins. Overall, my final verdict on the collection is it's not great. I will give it this, though. This is the best version of Sonic 1, 2, and CD that you can get on console, and it's a version of Sonic 3 and Knuckles that you can get. It's the only version, so make do with that. But going back to what I said at the beginning of this video, I feel like if you make a new re-release of old games like this, you really gotta make it worthwhile, in my opinion, by putting out the best possible version of these games that you can get. And Sonic Origins, just quite frankly, is not that. It has some cool things, like the animations and stuff, but if you're a PC gamer, I would absolutely not recommend Sonic Origins. There are far better versions of these games available made by the community. If you really want to go back to the classic Sonic games and you want to have the best experience possible while playing them, then I recommend checking out Sonic Forever, Sonic 2 Absolute, the decompilation of Sonic CD, and Sonic 3 Angel Island Revisited or Sonic 3 Complete. Those, in my opinion, are the definitive versions of these classic games, and those are the versions that I will continue to play going forward in the future. I'll have links in the description to all of those projects, as well as some mods that I recommend for a lot of them. The only thing I can hope is that, like what always happens when Sega puts out an official Sonic product that's not really up to snuff, hopefully modders can get their hands on this game and fix it up and improve it, and eventually maybe it can become the best version of these games. But only time will tell. Now, the only thing left to talk about with Sonic Origins is the pricing. This game at launch is being sold for $40 US, and that is pretty steep, especially when you compare it to other similar games that have been released in the past. I mean, first of all, Sonic Mania, a brand new Sonic game made from the ground up that definitely was a lot more work to make than this collection, was only $20 when it first came out. And then you also have things like the Crash and Spyro Reignited trilogies, which were full-on, from-the-ground-up remakes of 3D games that are much bigger and more complex than these Sonic games are. Yes, these are also remakes, but remember, most of these Sega already had. The only things that were made for this collection was the remake of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then all the extra stuff added in Origins. So, in terms of what you get for what you pay, this is not a very competitively priced product, I would say. Though I do think it needs to be said, I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about the price of Sonic Origins in a way where they're, like, insulted by this. Like, how dare Sega try to sell these games for this much money? And, I mean, like, I'm not happy about it either, but they can price the game to whatever they want it to be. That's how the market works. Something is worth whatever people are willing to pay for it, so it's up to you, really, whether or not you think the game is worth $40. If you don't think it's worth $40, then don't buy it. If you want my opinion, then I would say that this game is definitely not worth $40, and if you do want to get it, then you should at least wait for it to go on sale. And before anyone starts yelling at me that, oh, you think it's not worth the money, but then you bought it anyway, see, this is the problem. Not exactly. I did not beat all of the games available in Sonic Origins. I only messed around with the game for about 2 hours just to test everything and see what was available here. And, then I got a refund on Steam. So, if that doesn't give you my final verdict on this game, I don't know what will. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.